Good morning, class. I thought I would talk a little bit about the process analysis essay. And this is mainly for my Team A TRF class, English 1101, that meets Tuesday and Thursday at the Camden campus. Because of my seasonal head cold yesterday, we wasn't really able to talk about this sort of face to face. So I wanted to go ahead and briefly sort of cover a little bit what we would have covered yesterday in class. I know most of y'all are working on that first essay. Have had a chance to grade a couple of those. I hope to have the rest of them graded throughout today and definitely into the coming week. I hope to have them, everybody's graded by Sunday, if not earlier. So you want to probably keep checking Blackboard to see what your grade is on that. All the quiz grades for quiz one, I've already graded. So you should be able to check that, see what you made, why you made what you made. But if you turn quiz one in and you turn it in before the deadline, you should have already got a grade on that. For what I've read in the class about the English, about the essay one rather, the narration is pretty good for the ones I've graded. I mean, granted, some of y'all were sending me multiple drafts between, since last week. So if you've been sending me drafts and use smart thinking, I don't know if anybody's actually tried to use smart thinking. Hopefully that's working. We might check that for the class tomorrow to see if everything's up. If not, I need to get in contact with our IT people to see what's going on. But if you did send a draft, chances are your grade gradually improved with each passing draft. So again, drafts do matter as it relates to grades. They are sort of optional. I mean, you can send them if you like, but I would suggest that you at least send me in smart thinking, some drafts, uh, especially if you want your grade to sort of boost up from where it's at this point. So you should be able to look and see the same screen on in your week two progress folder, process folder rather. Sorry. If you look, I did send out a video that sort of covers that worksheet or that handout that we started at the tail end of our class last Thursday, which talked about the pronoun antecedent agreement and the subject verb agreement. We were yesterday going to talk about misplaced and dangling modifiers, but if you looked at that video, I cover that. So you should be able to go back and look at that particular section and get your information on dangling and misplaced modifiers. As it relates to the quiz, as you can tell here, we do have a Dropbox. The quiz is right there. You downloaded it. You want to approach it the same way as you did quiz one as it relates to answering the particular questions. It's dealing with, and I really think this one, let me pull it up. I think this one's only dealing with subject, or not subject and verb. I think it's only dealing with misplaced and dangling modifiers. And it is. So the subject verb issues and the pronoun antecedent issues, that will be happening on quiz 3, which would be sometime next week. So here you're just having to focus on the dangling modifiers and the misplaced modifiers. Again, underneath number 10, go ahead and label it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just provide your corrections, save it, and then upload it to your Dropbox. Now, granted, because I wasn't here Tuesday, and you might have just recently watched the video on the dangling and misplaced modifiers, what I can do, and I can change that right now, is I'm going to give y'all another day. Instead of having it due on Thursday, if you haven't finished on Thursday, you can go ahead and submit it. I do have one person in your class that basically submitted it already, and has made 100 on it. So if you want to go ahead and submit it between now and, tomorrow midnight, that's fine. But I will give everybody who needs it one extra day because I believe in being fair. And that extra day will be Friday the 22nd by 11:59. So if you can, follow the original guidelines and due dates and get it in tomorrow night, great. If you need to go over one extra day, that's fine too, as long as I get it before Saturday. There's really what I'm sort of hoping for, because then I can go ahead while I finish up grading your SA1, you will have a quiz grade 2 in there as well. So by that time, you should have 3 class grades and kind of have a general idea about where you are, your status is in the class as it relates to your grade. If you see, we do have an SA2 drop box. We do have an essay. We have SA2 topics in the description, and I'll talk about that here momentarily. The Dropbox, I probably will be moving to next week as it gets closer to Tuesday. So if you don't see it in the week 2 folder by the end of the week, just know it's going to be in next week's folder. The topics, though, I may move those over, but if not, I would probably suggest that you download those and print those out, or at least save them somewhere, so you will have them relatively close by so you can get started. And we're actually going to look at some of that here in a minute. Let's go ahead and look at that now, I guess. Not what I want. Let me pull them. Let me actually download these. Well, if you know what, I think I goofed. I gave y'all a descriptive essay topic and not the process, because y'all sort of did the process essay or the descriptive stuff with your narration. Okay, let me see here. All right, so I'm going to have to come up with some process essay topics. I apologize for that. My other English 1101 is actually doing a descriptive essay because your class is 8 weeks and theirs are nearly 16 weeks in length. So what I will do is I will have to come up with some process essay topics for you to actually do. But let me show you what the process essay entails, because it's going to be really easy. The only thing, we can pull this up, I guess, just disregard the whole deal with description, because we're not going to be doing that. But the same format and link's going to be in play. I say 3 to 4 pages for the process essay, but I'm going to tell you with the process essay, depending on what you're trying to do, you may have 3 to 4 pages and you may have a little bit less, as long as you're describing your process. And another way that you can look at process is, let me pull that up, is that you're describing a series of steps or events. So think of it, you can think of your process essay as like a manual, like you're giving me directions or guidance for something. And as you can tell here, really, you want to have a thesis. So just like you had a thesis in your first essay, you want to have a clear purpose or a unifying idea. And really, you have 2 different types of process essays that you can sort of go with. You can do the directional, how to do something, and informal, how or informational, how something works. A directional essay provides directions to achieve a particular result, how to cook perfect grits. And an informational essay explains something for a reader, how a rocket engine works. So one way that you can sort of set up this particular essay is divide the process. Have a clear purpose and divide the process into a basic, well-defined steps. Using following a time order, an outline will help you organize the paper. So you probably want to outline a little bit. If you didn't outline for the first one, you may want to outline for this one, depending on if you're taking the directional or the informational method as it relates to this process essay. You want to use effective transitions or transition words because they help clarify a process analysis essay. Phrases such as then, next, after, doing this helps the reader. And we'll probably look at a list of those tomorrow in class. You can go to Google and just type in a list of transitional words and phrases, and you'll probably find enough to give you a headache. Are you going to use all of them in your essay? Do you need to use all of them in your essay? Do you need to remember all of them? No, but you'd probably want to use some, especially to get from like step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, so on and so forth. And then you want to read your paper carefully. Examine your process essay step by step, looking for possible omissions, for example, for a recipe. So you're basically sort of taking this process analysis essay as if you're the expert and you want to inform your reader or your audience how to go about doing something step by step. So just because you can skip a few steps and still get the same results, don't necessarily mean that your audience is going to be able to follow that. So you want to, and this is where you're going to get your, paper link to, if you actually list out and define your steps. So you don't want to skip anything with this. And that's the point. You have to sort of make it where it's not going to be too terribly maybe boring to you to do, but you want to also be able to make sure that your audience members, aka me, will be able to follow your steps without having to say, okay, why did he sort of go from step 1 to step 3 without step 2? What's going on here? So you really want to label things and list things out. Think of it as you've probably seen those books. You may own some of those books, those dummy guides, how to do this, right? And that's sort of how you are going to approach this particular paper, is that you're taking your audience member, you're pretty much thinking they have a general education, they know how to read and write, that type deal, but they need to know how to fix something, or they need to know how to get to point A from point B, or whatever the case may be. So you're not necessarily having to talk down to them, but you want to give enough information that they will be able to, okay, I think I'll be able to do this. So another way to look at it is think of it as a YouTube guide how to do something, but you're doing it on paper instead of in a video. That's another way that you can kind of go about finding examples too. If you look at, there is sort of a process essay connected to this one, and it gives you some guidelines and hints. Notice though, I mean, it's all single space. Yours would have to be double space and that type stuff, but this will give you a general idea how to go about approaching your particular process essay. And in this case, they're doing the essay on the writing process. So notice too, here's your thesis statement. And then they're using those transitional words throughout each one of these paragraphs. And if you look, if you double space this, honestly, this would probably be about the same length yours needs to be, 3 to 4 pages. But again, I'm not necessarily focusing too much on the paper length or the word count. I'm looking at the ultimate, how well is your process set up? Can I understand it without having to go email you or, bring you aside in class and say, hey, I read your paper, but I don't really understand where you're going from point A to point B to point C. So if you're able to explain to me how you did that in your own writing, then that's what really makes up a really good process analysis essay. I mean, obviously, you want to spell check, grammar check. You can send me drafts like you did for the first one, as many as you need to. You can send them to Smart Thinking 2 if that's working, hopefully by, this week, next week, whatever the case may be with that. If you want to, because some folks like to do like a little diagram, if you want to provide that, you can. That might be a little bit more tricky unless you draw it out and sort of turn that in before you turn your essay in. That will work. If you know how to use some of the tools and drawing methods on Microsoft Word, that type stuff, I mean, that will work as well. If you decide to sort of use like diagrams from a book or something or a website, we will have to talk a little bit more about how to cite those, because generally you're not drawing that material and you didn't create that material that got published on the internet. You're actually taking somebody else's material. So you have to give that person credit. And that's not a big deal. And we can talk a little bit more about that tomorrow in class, because really that's getting you closer to what you would have to do in the research paper, and that's document stuff that's not yours. So that's something we can kind of look at too if you decide to go that route. So really, I guess, and I apologize, I thought I had the right essay topics. I must have got your class and another class, confused a couple of weeks ago when I was doing this. So I will try to come up with some topics, but I guess with that, I can sort of give you a verbal topic, and that would be just describe something. Give me a process analysis essay on something that, somebody would need to know how to do that maybe doesn't know how to do it, or they don't know how to do it. So you could probably think about how to go about doing that. Some off the top of my head would be, how to change oil, how to, how to, let's say you're going on a vacation somewhere and you're wanting to go from St. Mary's to Orlando to go to Disney World. You can sort of talk about the directions and the stuff that you would have to do to get to there. I mean, obviously, you could use Google Maps to help you out there, but again, you want to put a process down on paper. How do you get to Disney World the quickest, maybe? You could also talk about how to, cook your favorite dish. If you have a favorite dessert that you like to make around the holidays, or if you have a favorite meal you like to do on special occasions, you can talk about how to go about doing that. You can explain, and really what I want to show tomorrow is I'm going to show you how to do a calculus problem. So using basically 6 steps. So you could talk about how to do a math problem or how to solve a particular math problem. Some of you are in that math class now, so you can kind of, you have, I'm pretty sure you have a lot of examples there you can sort of pick and choose. You can talk about, we just had Christmas. You can talk about how to put up a Christmas tree or how to put one up and then take one down. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So with that in mind and said, just think about something you would like somebody else to know that they may not know, or maybe you have an easier way to do things. Let's say to fix the car engine, if your engine is having some issues, or how to change a tire if you don't have the proper stuff. Is there another way that you can change a tire if you don't have if you don't have all of the material there with you? You can kind of look at it maybe as like a hack guide. You can look at it that way as well. So just think about that. Again, I will probably have some topics that we can look up if you definitely need a topic sort of in mind because you can't think of anything. You can always go to Google and type in process analysis essay topics. and you should be able to find a load of topics there and be able to pick and choose one from that list that you can get started. So we will definitely talk a little bit more about the process analysis essay. What I would suggest is, um, you know, go through and read this sample essay, and then, obviously look at some of this other stuff that's listed in the week 2 folder if you haven't already. Our next sort of grammatical concepts would be right here, and we will talk a little bit more about those tomorrow as well. Um, you can also look at your rhetorical appeals and fallacies, which they may be more of a those concepts may be more helpful when we get into some of the other essay writing that we're going to need to do starting, week 3, week 4, that type of stuff. So that'd be sort of a good review. That's not to say you can't use some of those for SAT. You definitely could. But we will pick up pretty much with some of this material tomorrow. And again, just concentrate finishing quiz 2, which I postponed. The essay 2 for right now, I'm still going to leave it the 26th because really that wasn't due until the 26th. It wasn't due this week. So we're still going to keep essay 2 the same date and time. But I think once you start seeing what we're talking about tomorrow, the second essay will probably be maybe one of the easiest essays you write in this class, because it's just giving me a step-by-step process about how to go about completing a particular project or getting to a particular destination or solving a particular problem. So with that in mind, I will end it there, and I will see everybody tomorrow. I hope everybody has a great Wednesday, and I'll see you in the morning.